where all the cool kids go. The friendly info will show you around. We reward him with the fresh souls of our customers. Candles, t-shirts, weather tees, and so much more. Tags on deck, horror shop you will never want to leave. Your friendly info will show you around. We reward him with the fresh souls of our customers. Candles, t-shirts, weather tees, and so much more. Dads on deck, horror shop you will never want to leave.
Cannon fodder from your television screen with fury and force. Golan and Globus are at the helm, shipping out films that don't give a damn. Strange and bizarre, comedic, insane, and even deliciously horrific. They're busting at the seams. Cannon fodder from your theater screens with fury and force. Cannon fodder from your theater screens with fury and force.
Howdy, gang, and welcome to the return of Cannon Fodder. This was unfortunately been rescheduled for a couple of weeks, and I'm a little later getting on here than I intended to, but my dear husband took me out to eat dinner after I got off from work, and so, I couldn't pass that up. So I was a little later getting one film watched for the first time and the second film rewatch. So I hope y'all will forgive me, for going out to dinner and getting a late start. It doesn't look like anybody's in here right now, but perhaps people can watch this on the replay if they don't get to watch it live. So tonight, I'm going to be talking about Boy Takes Girl and Death Wish 2. I believe both of these films are from 1982, even though Boy Takes a Girl is showing up in the list of canon films for 1982, but it's got a 1984 date to it. So that could mean that maybe they had to stop production or something like that. I don't know all the background on it, but I did. Excuse me, folks. My allergies have been acting up something awful today, so I don't know if the allergens are just stirred up or what. So hopefully I won't be coughing too much, and I really shouldn't be rubbing my eye, but it's got what we always used to call back home cold in it right now, and so it's really aggravating me. So I'm going to go ahead and get some housekeeping things out of the way before we start talking about these movies. Now, tomorrow night should be another They're All Messed Up. That has also been delayed for a couple of weeks. And I'll be talking about All the Colors of the Dark and Blood Freak. And if you've never heard of Blood Freak, never heard anybody talk about it, never seen it, I think you're in for a treat. And I believe All the Colors of the Dark, it's been a little while since I've seen it, but I believe I did watch it with Steve. Um, I want to say Edwidge Fenech is in it. But, I could be wrong. But I was pretty sure that was one that she was in. But don't hold me to that, folks. But we'll find out tomorrow night. Hopefully, I'll get to start at 8 o'clock tomorrow night. Um, but if not, I'll try to not make it as late as this one was. Um, but I think you're in for a treat with Blood Freak because All the Colors of the Dark is basically a Giallo. But Blood Freak is something altogether different. Okay. Um, Friday, you may have a triple dose of me, folks, because I'm planning on doing a movie roulette, talking about a couple of films that Menelec chose. Um, I'll be talking about Jeepers Creepers and Host, and I'll be, reviewing those and giving them each a rating. And how can you participate in movie roulette, you might ask? Well, during any live stream I do, this includes this one. This one includes watch alongs. If you give a $5 or more super chat, you can pick any movie of your choosing for me to watch and do a review of on an upcoming episode of Movie Roulette. It could even be one I said I've hated in the past because you never know, I might like it on another watch. And in fact, that gives me an opportunity to bring up a new series that won't be, like every week. But whenever I'm wrong about something, whether it be a book, a movie, whatever, generally it'll probably be movies. I'll be doing an episode of Evil Dead Chick Eats Crow, and I have one out right now for Hard Eyes. And so if you haven't checked that out and want to check it out, be sure to do so. It is on the channel right now. Let's see. We also have a Friday Foolish coming up. If all goes well, me and Candace will be back in action doing a rather short Friday Foolish because I'm premiering at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Evil Dead Chick Slasher Fest, where I'm going to be showing a double feature of Friday the 13th, the original Friday the 13th, and Sleepaway Camp. It's going to be a little bit different than the watch alongs I do, which I do have a couple of watch alongs coming up this weekend for Happy Birthday to Me, Saturday night, starting at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, and Beetlejuice on Sunday, also starting at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. But the Evil Dead Chick Slasher Fest is going to be just a place for basically everybody to come in and hang out. We're probably not going to be, we could make fun of some of the things in the movies, and that's not a no-no. But I'm going to bring my popcorn. I'm going to have a soft drink of choice, and probably not going to have any booze. But if, in the comfort of your own home, if you want to drink some booze, have you some buttered popcorn. Hey, have you some, candy of choice, whatever you want to do. Let's just make this a fun time. I want it to be full of memories and make you guys and gals feel like, you're back at the drive-in if you ever got a chance to go to the drive-in. I feel bad for you if you never got to experience the drive-in, or have not got to experience a drive-in in recent times as well. So it's just a place for everybody to come and hang out. People can be live on the stream with me. I will try to find a for free copy of each one of the films so you can watch it in the comfort of your own home. Again, I would love to be able to stream these films for you folks. And I know people have asked, and Steve tells me there is a way to do it if you do it through Vaughn Live. However, I haven't really had much experience doing that, and I would rather, go with the old standard. And, I would love, love, love to be able to stream this through StreamYard, but YouTube would get me for it. They would knock me for it, and I would sure hate to lose my channel over a copyright issue with a movie from 1980 and 1983, folks. Um, Not that they're not good movies. I'm just saying I would hate to lose my channel because of that. That would be very unfortunate. So I'm playing it safe. But if you have your own copy that you can watch as we're, having the Evil Dead Chicks Slasher Fest, oh, have at it. Um, but I am, in the meantime, going to try to find some links so that you can watch it, each one of the films, in the comfort of your own home, as I'm having Evil Dead Chicks Slasher Fest, and we can all enjoy it together. All right. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get started talking about the first film, which I do not have a visual copy of, like a physical copy of, but I do have a visual for you folks. So let's just add the little poster for Boy Takes Girl. And this apparently was dubbed. The copy that I watched through, it was on Paramount Plus, amazingly enough. This was produced by Canon Films. Um, 1982, 1984, it's a toss up, right? So it's not like the Lemon Popsicle movies. It's not, that sexually charged, right? Because as you can tell from the picture of these two youngins, they're not the age of the gang in the Lemon Popsicle movies. Okay. And there were some things that kind of weirded me out about this movie. I mean, these kids might have been older than they looked, but gang, the girl here, she takes off her clothes several times in the movie, and she's as flat chested as can be. So she's not a developed girl, right? She's not a woman, obviously. And you see her in her underwear, and you don't like, thankfully, they didn't do anything like show full frontal on these kids. They don't show butts. We don't see the girls' nether regions in the front. We don't see the boys' penises or anything like that. There's not anything like that going on, right? And there's not really anything that shouldn't be shown. It just kind of weirded me out seeing these young kids, taking off their clothes and stuff like that. I mean, it was normal things. They were getting into the showers, and the boys and girls took showers together. And so I don't know. It was just a little strange to me. But this is a different culture, right? The girl there is from Tel Aviv. Her parents are both doctors, and they put her in a boarding school while they go um, to Thailand, I believe, to help refugees there. And they have to leave their daughter somewhere. They don't want to take her there. So they leave her at a boarding school for young kids. And she's apparently supposed to be in fourth grade, because when her parents bring her there, they say, hey, we're looking for the fourth grade cabin or the fourth grade cottage or whatever. But there are some little bit older boys. There's like sixth grade boys at this boarding school too. And they have boys and girls staying in the same room, and you, you actually have this one boy talking to Aya uh, that is the girl in the picture there, who comes to this boarding school. And he looks at her and he says, "Well, aren't you going to take your clothes off?" And at first, she's very, very shy. As longer she's there, she gets more comfortable with the way things are there. Again, there's nothing sexual going on. You have the one girl that's showing her around showing Aya around at the beginning, who points to one boy and says he has the biggest dick in our class. And oh my gosh, Um, but again, different culture, right? So we have these young girls thinking they're in love with these boys, and Aya thinks she's in love with this boy here that is shown holding her up in the air. That is a scene where they have chores to do. All the kids have chores to do. So she's asked to come help this boy who she's already had her eye on. But this boy's a rounder, I tell you. He takes one girl and then takes another and then takes another. He'll dance with the girl and he'll smile at her. And he has a little mini relationship with Aya. And then he wants another girl. And it's like, okay, And he even goes so far as to throw a ball at her and hit her in the stomach. And I'm like, dude, you know what? And another young boy holds a knife to Aya and says, if you don't tell me the truth about whether you love this boy or not, I'm going to kill you. And it's like, oh, what is wrong with these kids? You have another boy who pushes this girl down or trips her or something, then he stands over there going, it's like almost like you're watching a horror movie with these killer kids on it. It was just very, very odd. Um, but I didn't hate the movie. Some of the movie was really had heart. Aya goes through many emotions as she's staying at this boarding school. She's also staying with a host family that her mother and father know, um, and they know her. So she stays at the boarding school some of the time and stays with this family some of the time. And she meets one of the adopted children they have, a young man who's getting ready to go off to the army. And I wouldn't say Aya falls in love with him, but she's very fond of him. I think she thinks of him as more like a brother. And we have a sad scene where one of the boys that goes into the military gets killed during war. But Aya's friend, um, he's kind of like, I guess, what you'd call a conscientious objector. He has to go into the military, but he's going to be a cook while he's there. He's not on the front lines. So he ends up coming back and talking to Aya, and Aya tells him how much she missed him, all that. So some parts of the movie have heart. Other parts of the movie, you have these kids, playing like regular kids and singing songs and having dances. And then other times they're at each other's throat. There's a scene between Aya and Hannah, I believe. And Hannah gets mad at Aya because Aya likes the boy in the picture, but Hannah likes this boy too. So there's some jealousy. And one of their chores is to go feed these turkeys. And Hannah is mad at Aya, so she locks her in with the turkeys. And then when Aya gets out and she says, "Why did you lock me in with the turkeys?" "Well, I thought you said you weren't scared of turkeys. I didn't know you were in there." And then Hannah takes this one boy's stamps, his most prized stamps, and hides them with Aya's stuff. And unfortunately, Aya gets accused um, of stealing the boy's stamps. And the boy's like, "I'm going to kill whoever stole my triangle stamps." It was another one of those things that's like, what? These kids are very violent for young children. Um, but for the most part, I enjoyed watching the movie. I don't think it's one that I'm just going to run right out and watch again. Um, but if I was to, and I am going to give it a rating, um, again, hopefully y'all can visualize the half, right? I'm going to give Boy Takes Girl 3.5 stars. Um, would I recommend it? Yeah. I mean, it's good for a watch or two, I think. It's not one, uh, Darcy came in here. It's not one that I'm, like I said, going to run right down and, oh, I got to watch that again, you know. But it was interesting. It was an interesting look into a different culture, right? And definitely, if you can get a hold of a for free copy, um, I actually got a trial of Paramount Plus, and I've already canceled the trial because I don't want to end up having to pay for it. Right? I think it's like $12.99 or something like that a month after your trial is over. But I just took it long enough so that I could watch this Boy Takes Girl. All right, so that is Boy Takes Girl, and hey, Jay Duncan, you say, yay, Death Wish 2. Never heard of Boy Takes Girl. I try to watch one or two Canon movies I haven't seen every year on my birthday. Fortunately, it seems like I will never run out. Yeah, there are definitely a lot of Canon films to go through. Um, but Death Wish 2 is the second one I'm going to talk about. I was going to talk about uh, The Secret of Yolanda, I believe, but I could not find that one. If anybody can find it, you can let me know, but I was unable to find it. So I said, well, it looks like I'm going to have to skip over this one and go to Death Wish 2, which some of you or most of you might be happy that I did that. But it'd been a little while since I watched Death Wish 2, so it was nice to be able to pull this one back out and watch it again. Now, as I said when I did the Dirty Harry versus Death Wish films for the more recent Savage debate, I sorry guys, my eyes really bother me tonight. Me and Steve both agreed on this, that when you compare Dirty Harry and Death Wish films, the especially after Canon took over the Death Wish films, they did not do the first Death Wish, but I think all the rest of them they may have. That, like Steve said, and I have to agree, it got into more exploitation era stuff. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying it went from being a suspenseful film where Charles Bronson's character, Paul Kersey, becomes a vigilante to get revenge um, because his wife was murdered by some thugs and his daughter was sexually assaulted. Um, so that seemed more realistic. Now, do I still like watching the Death Wish movies? Yes, I do. I ain't gonna lie about that. Um, but it seems to become unrealistic that it's almost like Paul Kersey is being targeted by thugs in every town he moves to. It does not matter what town he moves to. It's like they zero in on Paul Kersey as somebody they want to steal a wallet from. And then when they get the address, which is what happens in this, when they get the address to his house, they go and attack and sexually assault and ultimately kill his housekeeper and kidnap his daughter, knock him out, kidnap his daughter. She's sexually assaulted a second time in this film, and she still is not recovered from the first film. It's played by a different actress. Robin Sherwood from Tourist Trap plays Carol Kersey. Or I don't think her name was Carol Kersey in the first film because she was married. But we don't see her husband in this, so either he just couldn't deal with the stuff and left her because she's in a home basically. But Paul decides to take her out, and she's very childlike. Carol's very childlike, and there's a scene where Paul asks the doctor, will she ever come back to me? And I think he asked the same thing in Death Wish. Will she ever come back to me? And the doctor says, you can give her your love, Mr. Kersey. And, hope and all that stuff. Jay Duncan, you say that MGM and Fox Blu-ray of Death Wish 2 is surprisingly decent. In my opinion, didn't keep me from buying both the subsequent Shout and Vinegar Syndrome releases, but that was more because I love the movie so much. And yes, I, as much as you can say that you like, I won't say the word because YouTube might get me for that, because it's not just that a sexual assault and revenge film, right? It has actual murders in it too. And these are not lighthearted films by any stretch of the imagination. They're not fun films. They're very dark. In fact, I told Steve after watching Death Wish the other night that I had to watch something funny. I had to turn around and watch Stripes. Just because that the movie Death Wish was so dark. But do I have times where I like to watch these movies? Oh yes, I'm not gonna lie about that. Jay Duncan, you say, what gets me is all the scenes of him at night, the locations, the music. Yes, those are very, very good things to bring up. And those were big parts of Death Wish 2. The music, the atmosphere, the locations, like you said, him, running around in the night trying to bring these people down. And at least in Death Wish 2, as opposed to Death Wish, he actually got the thugs that attacked and killed his housekeeper and caused his daughter not to be able to deal with what was happening to her. And she jumps out a window and jumps right onto some very spiky fence posts. It's very, very brutal. And the tone of the movie is so angry and off-putting. Yes, I agree with that. But at least he gets the thugs this time. In Death Wish, he actually he killed a lot of people. He killed a lot of other thugs, but he never got the guys that sexually assaulted his daughter the first time around and killed his wife. And so that always bugged me about the first Death Wish movie. So you kind of get a satisfaction in Death Wish 2 in that he gets the actual thugs that did this terrible thing to him, to his daughter, to his housekeeper. Now, the one thing I did not like that I had forgotten about, and remembered, unfortunately, as I was rewatching the film, is near the end of the film, his girlfriend, who apparently is his fiance, Jerry, leaves him at the end of the movie. She finds out he's the vigilante in LA, and that apparently he was the same vigilante from New York. And like, how could you do that if you were in love with a man? Whether you found out he was a vigilante, like, I didn't look at Paul Kersey as a murderer. I looked at these thugs as a murderer. Paul Kersey was a vigilante. There's a different, to me, there's a difference. But she takes off the ring because she has found this piece of paper that lets her know that Paul um, got into a hospital where the last of the thugs was. And he took the guy out. Um, and when she finds out this, she just takes her ring off, lays it on that name tag, and just leaves. Packs up her crap and leaves. And I'm like, okay, you could have never loved that guy if you could just leave like that. So that's the only part of the film that made me really angry. Um, you say, I think part of it is he's the vigilante, and part of it is he lies to her and hides it from her. And that's a good point to bring up, Jay Duncan, that he did lie to her. He did keep things from her. But wouldn't it be better to try to talk it out than to just flat out leave? I mean, I think about how much I love my husband. And if I found out that, just short of like he was cheating on me. Now, if he was cheating on me and he lied, that would be a whole different ball game, right? If he was beating on me and then going out and lying to people and saying, no, I treat her good, and none of those things, of course, are happening. I'm just saying. Um, and people might say, well, being a vigilante and going out and taking out thugs, whether they're thugs or not, it's still murder. Um, I don't know. I'm usually more liberal thinking, and mostly liberal thinking people don't, like that kind of behavior. But if we remember, Paul was pretty liberal at the beginning of Death Wish, and that's before his wife was murdered and his daughter sexually assaulted. And at first, if you remember from the first movie, when the first time he actually kills someone, he's physically sick. He runs home, he goes in the bathroom, and he vomits. Um, but I think the longer it goes on, he begins to get a little feeling of satisfaction, you know. Um, but I guess there's many, many ways we could look at this. And I'm not saying anybody's right or wrong with their beliefs and how they think about it, right? Um, and the important thing to remember when it all comes down to it is they're just movies. They're not real life. But, we can feel free to pick at certain things or say we like certain things. And, that's what's so great about commentary on films is that everybody's going to have their own individual opinion. And I welcome all opinions. If you can be nice and come in here, like me and Jay Duncan are having a nice conversation here tonight, or I feel like we're having a nice conversation. Nobody's fighting, nobody's arguing, nobody's calling each other stupid. We're just expressing, what we think about the films. Um, Jay Duncan, you say a confrontation rather than her just leaving could have been a compelling scene. It very well could have, and I think it could have added to the movie as well. And it may have given Paul an opportunity, the character of Paul Kersey, an opportunity to not so much justify what he's doing, but to explain to Jerry, but she leaves, and so that's left unsettled. Jay Dunn, you say I always enjoy exchange about a great movie like Death Wish 2. Yeah, I love these conversations. That's why I miss when you come in, Jay Duncan, because we always have these nice little conversations about different films. Um, so again, these little streams or segments or whatever you want to call them are not meant to be really long segments. And I've had a long week already, but I wanted to get on here. This has been delayed for 2 weeks, and I really wanted to be able to get on here and talk about these two films with you guys and gals. Um, but I'm going to go ahead and give my rating for Death Wish 2. And I'm going to give Death Wish 2 right here 4 Deadites out of 5. Not a perfect movie, but a very watchable movie. Little more of exploitation in there than the original Death Wish, but hey, you know, nothing says that that's the wrong thing to do, right? And I think Canon films, the films that they produced, the films that they said, hey, we want to be associated with, I think they made great choices with these films. Even the ones I probably wouldn't have watched had I not been doing this series called Cannon Fodder. But I guess that is it for me for tonight. Stay tuned for They're All Messed Up tomorrow night. Hopefully, I'll be able to start 8 or 9. Hopefully, I can start around 8 o'clock Eastern Time, but we'll see. Where I'm going to be covering All the Colors of the Dark and Blood Freak. We're going to be talking about the kills in each one of those primarily. Um, you're very welcome, Jay Duncan. I love doing these streams whenever I can, and I'm glad that somebody's still out there, whether they're in here as I'm doing these or they watch them on the replay. I appreciate all of you guys and gals out there. And just remember, there are things you can do to support the channel that don't cost you a dime. And those things are, you can subscribe if you haven't already subscribed to my channel. Tell your family and friends that you think might like the content that I'm putting out. It costs you nothing to do that. It costs them nothing to subscribe if they decide that they like this channel enough to subscribe to it. You can like the videos and the live streams that you enjoy. And you can hit that notification bell so you don't miss when I put new content out. So again, those are 3 ways that you can support me in the channel. You can get me up there in the algorithms of YouTube, and it won't cost you one thin dime, folks. So I'm out of here for tonight. But as always, I'm off like a dirty shirt. This shirt ain't dirty, but I'm off like one. And I want to remind everybody, as I always do before I get off of here for the night, to be kind to one another and blaze that trail. Have a fantastic rest of your Wednesday night, folks. And I'll see everybody next time.